Multiplication as the structure of disease risk. The origin of TSI and the law of protection. Number 1600, April 17, 2026. Gerald C. EclaireMD Foundation. Category: Biomedical Systems. Artificial Intelligence. Stroke, Cardiovascular Disease, CKD, Dementia, Cancer. Introduction. C, or Triggering Sensitivity Index for Disease Risk Warning, was inspired by a very simple idea from basic physics, around 400 years ago. Isaac Newton expressed his law of motion as F equals m asterisk a instead of F equals m plus a. This simple arithmetic choice reflects a fundamental structural truth about nature. Most real systems behave multiplicatively, not additively. Forces interact and amplify each other. Human diseases often follow a similar pattern. Addition accumulates, multiplication amplifies and transforms. 1 month ago, after arriving in Honolulu, I was walking along the Pacific Ocean beach and thinking about Newton's equation. I suddenly asked myself a simple question: didn't Newton write F equals m plus a? That moment reminded me that most people naturally think in an additive way. In medicine, this appears everywhere. Obesity plus diabetes plus hypertension is often described as a simple sum of risks for heart attack or kidney failure. However, these serious conditions do not merely add these three inputs. They interact with each other and amplify the combined effect, producing a much greater overall risk. Over more than 70 years of education. From elementary school in Taiwan to my graduate school years at MIT. No teacher ever explicitly explained that multiplication creates amplification, yet amplification is exactly what occurs within most biomedical systems. During the past 17 years of self-studying health, disease, biomedicine, and pathophysiology, I have repeatedly observed that medical conditions are rarely independent or linear. Biomedical systems are intertwined, nonlinear, dynamic, and continuously interacting. Even a simple infection is an interaction between invading organisms, such as bacteria or viruses, and our own cells. Nothing in biology behaves purely as an additive system. This realization led me to develop the Triggering Sensitivity Index TSI for disease risk. Instead of adding risk factors together, I multiply them to reflect the amplification occurring inside the human body. TSI is not a diagnostic tool. It is an early warning signal that shows when internal stress energy is rising toward a breaking point. Core concept. My key idea is simple. 1. Risk factors interact, not just accumulate. 2. Interaction leads to amplification. 3. Amplification is mathematically represented by multiplication. Force does not change by simply adding mass and acceleration. Force changes when mass and acceleration interact, meaning when either factor changes alone or when both change together. This is a structural concept, not merely a mathematical preference. Scientific background. In many physical and biomedical systems, output does not equal the simple sum of inputs. Instead, output reflects interaction among multiple inputs. Examples from physics and engineering illustrate this clearly. Mechanical fatigue, stress amplitude multiplied by cycle count leads to structural damage. Fluid dynamics, pressure multiplied by flow velocity represents energy transfer. Electrical systems, voltage multiplied by current equals power. Biomedicine, glucose multiplied by blood pressure multiplied by obesity or vascular stiffness contributes to vascular damage, which can lead to heart attack, kidney failure, or stroke. Each factor alone may not cause failure. However, when multiple factors rise together, the combined effect or mortality risk increases much faster than expected. This behavior is consistent with fundamental principles in nonlinear dynamics coupled systems. Threshold behavior, cumulative damage, episodic feedback loops. The above-mentioned principles are standard in physics and engineering, yet they are often less emphasized in traditional medical education. Why additive thinking is common. Most people learn addition first in early education. Addition is intuitive. Multiplication is less intuitive. Interaction effects, such as amplification, are rarely emphasized explicitly. As a result, many medical risk models are presented as risk score equals factor 1 plus factor 2 factor 3. However, real biomedical systems often behave more like risk approximately equals factor 1 multiplied by factor 2 multiplied by factor 3. Because physiological variables influence each other continuously. For example, diabetes increases vascular stiffness. Vascular stiffness increases sensitivity to blood pressure. Higher blood pressure accelerates vascular damage. Vascular damage worsens glucose regulation. These four processes form coupled feedback loops, not independent effects. Characteristics of early warning signs. My personal longitudinal data show that the highest TSI values appeared before each of my major medical events, particularly my stroke case. My cardiovascular disease CVD developed during the period from 1984 to 2004. And my chronic kidney disease CKD occurred between 2009 and 2013. During those earlier periods, I did not collect sufficient biomarker data to support detailed quantitative proof I was able to do for my stroke case. I also firmly believe that this biomedical pattern resembles many physical failure systems such as earthquake stress accumulation, metal fatigue, crack growth, structural loading of bridges or dams, volcano pressure buildup. In these systems, energy accumulates gradually before visible failure occurs. This behavior is highly similar to my stroke case, for which I have collected detailed longitudinal data since 2014. The analogy of a volcano rupture describes a threshold crossing after gradual accumulation of internal stress for energy. TSI reflects this accumulation behavior. When TSI rises, risk rises. When TSI falls, risk falls. The principle I follow is consistent with traditional medical understanding. The lower the value, the better, as long as the value does not become dangerously low. Role of TSI. TSI does not attempt to predict the exact timing of disease events. Instead, it serves to 1. Capture interaction strength among risk factors to highlight system sensitivity. 3. Detect trend direction for provide early warning signals. This role is consistent with many engineering indicators, such as fatigue index, safety factor, hazard ratio, and stability margin. These indicators do not predict exact failure timing. They identify increasing risk conditions so preventive action can be taken earlier. Structural logic of the TSI model. My reasoning follows a physics-based and systems engineering perspective. It reflects first principles thinking and nonlinear interaction logic. This approach is influenced by my background in mathematics, physics, and science. Artificial intelligence. Longitudinal data pattern recognition, shyly and personality disorders. Another important aspect is the use of trend behavior, particularly the 90-day moving average. This approach follows signal processing principles, including reducing noise, extracting structural patterns, and observing trajectory direction. Trend direction is often more meaningful than a single measurement value. Model simplicity and practical use. Multiplication becomes most meaningful when variables are normal and variables represent relatively independent dimensions. Scaling constants are interpretable. The model remains simple enough for practical daily use. The simplified TSI structure attempts to balance scientific structure with usability. The objective is not theoretical perfection, but practical usefulness for patients. Conclusion. The central idea of my TSI proxy is straightforward. 1. Interaction amplifies system response to multiplicative structure, captures interaction better than simple addition. 3. TSI can function as a practical early warning index for trend direction is often more important than absolute value. My own experience shows that TSI curves rose before my medical incidents, indicating accumulation of internal stress energy before the volcano rupture moments, such as CVD, CKD, and stroke. My training in mathematics, physics, engineering, computer science, and AI helped me recognize this universal structure. Over the past 17 years, I have invested approximately 84,000 hours self-studying and researching health, medicine, and diseases, including reading more than 10,000 published medical research papers. This multidisciplinary training has provided practical value in helping me better understand and protect my own health. I hope that other patients may also benefit from a simple early warning tool that helps them observe their own risk trends on their iPhones before disease occurs. For this reason, I am developing a free TSI application for the Apple App Store so that anyone can monitor risk trends and take preventive action earlier. Simplicity improves understanding. Understanding improves action. Early action may help prevent disease and save lives. Finally, addition describes coexistence, whereas multiplication describes interaction. In other words, additive models implicitly assume independence. Multiplicative models assume dependence. That distinction is the intellectual backbone of TSI. Disclaimer: I write this paper not for fame but to share what I have learned so others can understand their health, prevent disease, and live longer, healthier lives. This content is provided for educational reference only and does not constitute medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is created. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights and copyrights for this article and its related materials belong to The author, Gerald C. This content is provided for educational reference only and does not constitute medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is created. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights and copyrights for this article and its related materials belong to the author, Gerald C.